All right, we're going to begin now. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar titled Discover the Benefits of the TAP All-in-One Teller Capture System. In the event that you are unfamiliar with this new product, the All-in-One Teller Capture products combine a check scanner and a receipt printer all into one space-saving platform. Today we're going to have UniLink's top sales consultant, Lou Fuchs, point out a few benefits of teller capture. Then we're going to pass the presentation to Burroughs, Digital Check, and Panini to present their new products. And then to wrap things up, we've actually been able to obtain some information on Canon's new product. So Lou will go over that quickly, and we will end with question and answer time. If anyone has any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them into your chat box, and we will have the appropriate vendor answer at the end of the presentation. So now I will go ahead and pass the presentation off to Lou. Lou?
Thank you, Jennifer. There are many reasons why a financial institution would bring teller capture to the front counter. And some of these reasons would be balancing and reconciliation at the point of origin. This would streamline your operations both in your branch back office and at your operations center, and it's going to reduce dramatically your operational costs. Another reason would be immediate verification of funds and fraud prevention. What that means is that issues are resolved before the customer leaves the building. Reduces float, meaning that the financial institution and the customer both have quicker access to their funds, and also a smaller footprint, which means that having an all-in-one platform allows you the ability to have the teller area optimize their space, because most financial institutions have a situation where that space could be somewhat cluttered at times. There are actually many, many reasons for doing teller capture. We have available for you PDFs and white papers, which Jennifer would be happy to share with you and email to you after our webinar concludes. All you'll have to do is email Jennifer at UniLinkInc.com and say, Jennifer, please send me the white papers and PDFs, and we'll send that supporting documentation to you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Lou. I'd like to introduce everyone now to John Wesner, who is the Program Director of Check Automation Solutions at Burroughs. He's here to speak with you today about the Burroughs new Receipt Now Teller Capture System. So John, you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. And I actually wanted to touch on two parts. One was the Smart Source Open Professional as well as the receipt printer, because they really are kind of a combination unit that allows you to get a lot accomplished. Next slide, please. Just to give the audience a little bit of background, Burroughs and Unisys prior to that have been doing distributed capture since the mid-1990s when we started our design on the Source NDP, and we had several generations of that, as well as doing some OEM-type products in the interim. In 2007, late in the year, we introduced the Smart Source series, the Value Professional and Expert. In 2009, 2010, we introduced the Smart Source Adaptive, which is the combination check and full page scanner you see up in the top near the right. And this year we came out with a new version of the Smart Source Open. Next slide, please. Really, basically, we have three fundamental objectives as part of Burroughs Payment Systems. First off, to try to continually enhance and improve our hardware solutions. We make it a very special point to speak with our customers, to speak with our software solution providers, to solicit feedback so that we're giving you what you need as opposed to what we think that you need. But in addition to that, we want to provide high-quality manufacturing, scanner performance, and maintenance services. We do both our own service, and for those folks that do provide service for us, they go through an extensive qualification process first to make sure that the maintenance services that you would receive if you needed any on a scanner that you bought from Burroughs would be of the highest quality. And then finally, one of our objectives is to provide scanners that are really easy to operate and minimize the operator maintenance, especially in the teller type environment. The teller's main job is not to maintain a scanner. It's not to run checks. That's what the sorter operators used to do. Their job is to interact with the customer, to handle the transaction, hopefully to cross-sell, to get more business for the bank. So we try to minimize what the operator, the teller, needs to do to perform their job and do that successfully. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the professional and the expert, which are the two primary types of teller-type scanners that are available in the U.S. market specifically. It's either professional, which is a USB-connected device, or the expert, which can be either USB or Ethernet connected. The professional acts as really a typical USB-connected scanner where most of the work actually happens in the PC, interacting with the scanner. The expert can truly be a standalone type device. It has its own network address. It has its own operating system internally. It can capture images on an interim basis. It can actually store up to 1,000 images. So if the network temporarily went down, it could continue processing and then feed those images when the network came back up. We offer it at 4 different speeds, 30, 55, 80, or 120 documents a minute. And you can have either a single or a dual pocket. In addition to that, as a standard, we offer a 100-document input feeder, 1 to 4 line endorsement with that's a printer really that includes logo and graphics, and that is at no additional charge for the endorsement. Some folks like to have a front franker, and basically that's the front stamp that says electronically processed, so that's an option as well. You also have the option, because of the way that the endorser works, of doing receipt printing if you want to as part of the scanner itself. From a MICR and OCR perspective, our MICR reader is very dependable. We do offer an OCR assist, which is optional. You can turn it on or off. That's, of course, no additional charge also. In most cases, we find that customers don't even need to turn on the OCR assist because the MICR reader performs that well. And there's a side benefit to that then if you get an item that's non-MICR or has non-MICR characters in it, you can catch that as a can't read and decide whether you want to handle that as a fraud suspect or how you'd like to approach it. And then in addition, there's optional OCR, OCR A and B for those of you that may also accept remittances, some type of utility payments or whatever at your bank. It can handle MICR and OCR intermix, so you can do stubs and checks. The image capture is at 300 dots per inch. We do both JPEG, which is grayscale, and CCICT, black and white. We can actually capture up to 5 images in a single pass. Some folks want to capture both grayscale and black and white for the front and back, which is 4. Some recognition engines prefer a high-resolution JPEG image, so we also capture that as a 5th image and can pass that to the recognition engine. And then, of course, if you start at a slower speed, there's in-field upgrades, and it handles both Windows XP, Windows 7. Next slide, please. From our perspective, why the Smart Source? We've been doing paper processing since the 1950s when we helped develop the MICR standard, and we've been doing image processing since the 1970s. We actually started at the fastest speeds, started at 1,800 a minute, moved up to 2,000 a minute. So we're handling paper at about 300 inches per second, which when you start doing the math turns out to be about 16 or so miles an hour. A lot of that technology, our MICR algorithms, the way that we handle paper so that we capture it very precisely, we brought that same technology down to the scanner at the teller window. So for instance, we use a belt drive which causes continuous steady pull of the item in front of the image camera, in front of the MICR reader. That gives you a very high read rate, and it gives you a superior quality image. We also capture the front image right up front in the track because that allows you to decide, for instance, if you wanted to outsort quality suspects, you could do that because you've captured the front image up front. And we have the ability as part of our API to provide that type of interaction so that you can make that decision while it's in the track. We also have designed certain capabilities into the system. You'll notice on the lower picture, the cover design is such that if an item were to get stuck in the track for some reason, you can easily pull it out of the track without having to remove any of the covers. Because it's a belt drive versus rollers, it does not rip the items when you pull them out of the track. But just in case, we also have added a track flow override or a smart clear button that's on the top. If you push that button and hold it down for 2 seconds, it will flush out the track. Again, not having to remove any covers, because you don't want the teller to remove covers. You want them to keep doing their job. So it allows them to easily recover from a problem, reprocess it, without having to start a maintenance effort underway in front of a customer standing there at the teller windows. And then finally, we have some LED indicators that just signal if the machine is on, if it's connected correctly. They're multicolored. The application provider can use those as well. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have a standard print subsystem where you can either print endorsements and or receipts. It's integrated with no additional space required. However, the way that we design the machine is such, the endorser is far enough away from the MICR reader that you have captured the entire MICR line, and if you wanted to, can even print part of the MICR line on the same item that you're processing. That allows you, from a research perspective, on day 2 or out of your archive, just look at a rear image and be able to quickly and easily identify it and handle that item as necessary. The endorser is also height adjustable, so you can adjust the height between 2 different heights. If, for instance, you deployed some at the teller line and some in your day 2 departments, you could have the day 2 departments that had a scanner have the endorsement at a different height so that you're not overprinting it. From an operator maintenance perspective, again, on the print mechanism, we have worked with our supplier to come up with an optimized ink formulation. We also use an intelligent ink cartridge. We believe that anything that we're providing, we should try to do a value add. Rather than just use a standard cartridge, this cartridge knows how much ink is left. So from a bank's perspective, when you're trying to do a TCO, most tellers, because it's not their primary duty, unless you remind them, they may or may not change the ink cartridge. If they change it too frequently, you're throwing out cartridges that are half full, which is an issue. If they don't change it frequently enough, you're thinking you're printing endorsements, but you're not. By using an intelligent ink cartridge, we can prompt the teller. Pops up a little pop-up on the bottom right saying, you're low, and it'll tell them that they're very low, change the cartridge now. So you really eliminate the risk of someone running out of ink or throwing away half-full cartridges. We see that as a benefit that is certainly well worth it in the TCO. It's hard to quantify how often your teller is going to goof up, but it doesn't take a lot of times for somebody to goof up to realize that it's a very good benefit. Next slide, please. In terms of the overall enhancements in the open version that we were talking about, I won't go through these in great detail because I know I only have a few minutes, but we've integrated the feeder extension. You'll notice at the bottom where it is actually a part of the device as opposed to a little clip-on where, because the teller is moving around, if they bump the machine, it's possible to break the input extension. You can literally pick the device up by the input extension and it has no problem whatsoever. The maintenance has been reduced compared to what we've seen in the past. We've taken several things which could have been considered consumables and redesigned them so that they're no longer consumables. And we also, for those facilities that may be doing something like remittance processing as well, where you may get shorter items, we can handle items as short as 2.9 inches. Next slide, please. We offer several different interfaces, and again, because we're offering an API interface, we wanted, number one, make sure it was flexible, so we use Ranger because several application providers have used it. We use CAPI, which is a traditional OCX interface. We provide a .NET type interface as well as Twain or Linux. But in all those interfaces, we also design in some value adds where we can tell the operator if there's certain exception conditions by a little pop-up. And you can turn those on or off. If you don't want the operator to see it, you can turn them off easily, or you can set it so that only certain messages come up. But it gives that teller a little prompt if they're doing something wrong. And it's much easier than if you have to give them a whole list of exceptions, or if the API only tells the application and the application doesn't report it, because then you have an exception and you're not aware of it. Next slide, please. So from the scanner side, that kind of gives you a picture of what's going on top. The other half, which is the other portion of the all-in-one, is the Smart Source Receipt Now. Next slide, please. So we offer a Receipt Now under the same footprint, as I'm sure you'll see it with the other folks as well, where the Receipt Now sits underneath the scanner. It prints at up to 8 inches per second. So it's targeted to be a very fast printer, thermal printer. Can handle images and graphics and all that other kind of good stuff. But we did a couple of things a little bit different. Like we designed it, number one, with a little opening in the back so you can store a spare roll of paper in it. That doesn't take up any space, but it's very compact. We designed it to make sure it could handle the largest paper roll commercially available. Some folks may get something that's about a half-inch shorter in terms of height, but you can't handle the large paper rolls, which results in the teller having to change the paper roll much more frequently. We also decided that even though we'd like everyone to be buying all Burroughs product, that we know in a lot of cases the bank has already bought a scanner and they're just looking to replace their printer. For that reason, we've designed a little bit, I guess the best analogy is if you bought an iPod, you know there's several different versions of iPods, and they'll send out a little template. That template allows you to snap the thing in and put in different types of iPods of different sizes and hold it correctly. We believe it was important to make sure that the scanner is integrated with the printer, because if it just sits on top of it and it can slide off, then you have a problem because it can knock off and break. But we also realize in some cases that you may have some other scanner, be it Digital Check, be it Panini, be it CTS, be it Canon. So we've designed templates which can snap into the Receipt Now printer that will integrate those other scanners into our printer and hold them in place nice and neatly so it's a combined unit. We purposely keep a separate USB with the device. We don't try to integrate the scanner with the printer in terms of USB because customer feedback we've heard is that if you only have one USB trying to deal with both, if either component breaks, then the whole machine is dead. So we wanted to keep those separate but give that integrated type picture and give that ability so that the teller can feel confident when they're using it that if they bump it, it's not going to fall over. Next slide, please. So to summarize, can reduce footprint by up to 40%. You can either do USB or Ethernet. There's the built-in storage, and of course we have the ability to do not only OPAs, but Windows-type printing and things of that nature. Next slide. And I think I'm about out of time, so hopefully I've been able to cover everything, at least briefly. We would welcome any other questions at the end, or certainly our website is there, and you can talk to Lou and his folks at UniLink, and they'll be happy to help you out, or we'll be happy to work with yourselves and Lou to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, John. Next up, I'd like to introduce you to Rick Uten, who is the Director of Product Management at Digital Check. He's here to present the Digital Check TS240 TTP Teller Capture System. Rick?
Okay, thank you very much. And we appreciate the opportunity to share some information on our approach to the integrated teller image scanner printer market. So let's get started. So let's go to the next slide, if you will. And the first thing that we want to kind of set the stage with is, again, the platform, the foundation for the solution, which, again, is our TS240. We've been in the scanner business, again, for over 10 years. Many folks are familiar with our scanner family. The TS230 was very successful and widely used in the market. And the TS240 is the next generation. So, again, similar, it does come in several speeds, 50, 75, and 100 DPM, 300 DPI image camera. We offer a 100 document feeder for both feeder and output pocket. And those don't change no matter what speed scanner you have. You can always have the same size input and output pockets. We offer currently a single line rear inkjet endorser. We'll talk a little bit more about the built-in scanner diagnostics, energy efficient, and again, single hand operation. But again, it's an ergonomically designed scanner. Everything is built into the scanner, if you will. There's no pieces to assemble once you get the scanner. And it's really designed to be pretty self-contained for the life of the scanner. It's rated for a 2 million item lifetime duty cycle, if you will. That equates to about 1,500 items per day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year for 5 years. So again, it's a robust design, and there's really no parts on this scanner that need to be changed over the life of the scanner. There's really simple consumables, if you will, There's a cleaning card. Obviously, there's an inkjet cartridge that needs to be changed. And there's a single feed roller that over time, as that wears, can be changed. But again, other than that, there's no other belts or rollers or feed mechanisms that need to be changed over the life of the scanner. And we found that's been a very popular component of our scanners. So next slide, please. So a big part of our story at Digital Check is not only the hardware, but then again, it's the API behind the hardware that we think combined to provide a very compelling solution. So what we're going to talk about here over the next couple slides are some of the features of our API that is the same and is consistent across all of our scanners. So any scanner from Digital Check would have these benefits available. The first one I want to mention here is what we call exception document handling. And this is where we do special thresholding and image improvement algorithms based upon a unique micro line identification. So here you can see we have a U.S. postal money order, and it has a specific microline, and we can do some things special to this document, things a little differently than on the left and on the right because of that white circle, with the goal that once the thresholding is completed, you get a very clean, crisp, light-sized image so that your recognition engine gets the best approach. So again, we have lots of customers that use the standard features that are built in, money orders, traveler's checks, and if there's ever a case where another item is revealed that is causing or has some image thresholding questions, if it's a unique item, we can add that to our API and improve the image processing. So again, this feature is for targeted items. So let's go to the next slide. So we all know that there's a bunch of items out there in the marketplace. So we have a feature called adaptive rethresholding that is for the rest of the population of checks. So no matter what kind of check comes through our system, whether it is gel pen with different colors as in the top example, or a security pantograph where in a normal copier you would see void, void, void across the image, or again, just very difficult, busy backgrounds, we have, again, this feature to do adaptive rethresholding that will work on the image, and it'll actually adapt the thresholding a couple times in milliseconds real time without any speed degradation to the scanner to get the best image. So again, between these two features, whether you have a targeted special item like a money order or just general items that go through the scanner, our API is designed to maximize the best image that you get from that process. Next slide, please. So in addition to the image processing, again, being in the business for as long as we have, it's also good to have some diagnostic help when there is an occasional question. And we have diagnostic tools that are built into our API that it makes it easy for a help desk person to interact if there's a question or they want to know if there's a sensor that might be tripped because there's debris in the scanner that they don't see, or again, if it's been a long time in use of the scanner and it's got a lot of items on it, there's an easy way to get to this tool and display all the attributes of the scanner so that it can be forwarded to a help desk and they can quickly diagnose the problem. Again, this is something that hopefully is not used on a regular basis, but when it is needed, it is very, very, very helpful. And this is, again, a popular feature of our API as told to us by our customers. Next slide. So 3 other features, again, to complete both the hardware and the API set that we bring to the table. We, too, are also very pleased with our micro reading, and we also use an OCR assist there. And we utilize multiple microalgorithms and OCR reads to get the highest net micro read rate. And so whether the item has signature marks through the microline or if there's other light components of the micro, we'll do a good job of providing an accurate microline for the downstream processing. Part of the OCR reading that's available is that we can also handle upside-down documents. So again, it's not that it's a requirement to use, but for example, in a teller environment, if there is a check that goes upside down, we will detect that, and if requested or if the application decides it's appropriate, we can automatically rotate that check and we will report the reoriented check properly to the application with an indication that it's been rotated and that we've read the microline optically, right, because the magnetic line didn't pass by the microreader. And typically, if it's like under a $50 item, there's a good chance that it might be okay to let pass. If it is a larger item or an item that is of a different RT or a distant bank, it certainly can be prompted for the operator to recapture that. But again, that's a feature of our API that many of the teller systems like to use to minimize the teller interaction. And then lastly, through our API, we do provide output that is useful for scanner remote monitoring, which is becoming a pretty important topic in this marketplace as well. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to pause here just for a second to talk about the combined unit. So we have the workhorse engine, the TS240. We too have we call it a teller transaction printer that sits under the scanner. You can see in this picture how it fits. And what it does, again, it's the same similar approach to bring all the components in a smaller footprint and all the working components be at one end so that the teller really doesn't have to reach around or do anything special with the scanner in order to use it. You can see that the input hopper here is on a little bit of the left side of the scanner, which means it's really kind of designed for right-hand operation. It's designed for single-hand drop, if you will. There's no plunger to work with. Scanning can proceed, and then when ready, the thermal receipt printer will print, and it prints at about 10 inches per second. So let's go into a little bit more detail about the combined solution. So next slide, please. So I'm bringing this to market. Again, we partnered with a company called Cognitive, and the actual thermal print engine that we use is based upon their A799 print engine. And again, this is a workhorse in the industry, installed in many, many different industry verticals, and it's a very reliable and accurate printer. It's designed to have easy drop loading of paper. We'll show a picture of that. There's a drawer in the front that pulls out. Again, it can have a USB or serial interface. We also support the standard OPOS or OPOS and Windows print drivers. And what that really means is that in a teller system environment, teller image, most teller systems that are printing receipts today will understand OPOS or Windows. So in many cases, there's not really any changes that are needed to drive this printer versus what they're used to printing. Our scanner comes with a 4-year warranty, and again, it supports the larger paper size rolls. So next slide, please. So when you have a combination printer, scanner printer, right, this means that there's more room at the teller window. There's less involvement with the teller as far as managing the hardware, but more servicing the customer. So the goal is to increase the cross-sell opportunity. And then again, with the thermal printer, a single sheet printer, the concept that the industry and the teller systems are moving towards is a single consolidated receipt. So what that means is one receipt per customer session, not one receipt per customer transaction. So if a customer comes in and they want to make a checking deposit, and then they also want to make a savings deposit and maybe also purchase some money orders or pay utility, all those can be printed on a single receipt and given to the customer so that they have a one place for the record of their transaction. And this is similar to the receipts that they would get on their ATMs, if you like, and image-based receipts can also be accommodated with this technology. Again, I mentioned how fast it prints, fast and quiet, 10 inches per second. So printing of the receipt is really very neat and very quiet and impressive. And there's a wide range of print paper and print technology that you can use. You can support, or we can support multi-color printing, two-color printing. You can have pre-printed thermal paper, and then the printer supports graphics, as we'll see in a minute. So if you go do your industry research and run your errands on the weekend, you'll see that thermal printing is really a fairly standard receipt printing technology. But again, there's lots of good ways to make it a valuable and impressive receipt so that you can portray the message that you want to portray. Again, from the industry research, this is a very widely accepted type of receipt printing technology. It's less expensive. By combining the units, you also save the counter space, which I think is one of the main drivers for this approach. There's not a separate inking product. The ink is in the paper, and it's easy to replenish the paper when it's needed. So from a lot of perspectives, a thermal printer combined with a teller scanner is a very desirable and well-accepted solution approach. Okay, next slide. So we talked just briefly about the interface, the OPOS or Windows. And so you'll see on the left that this means that the traditional receipt messaging or data stream that the teller system is able to print looks like it does on the left and can be accepted and will be accepted by our teller transaction printer. But with our printer engine comes a marketing tool called Receiptware, and we can take the input data on the left and immediately turn it into the receipt on the right. So that means logos can be added, certain text can be highlighted. You see that there's marketing messages on the side. And so day one, without any changes on the teller system, you can have a much improved and much more impressive receipt that actually you present to your customers as a benefit of the printing engine and technology that we're offering. And we can see more examples of what we can do on the next slide. So in addition to adding graphics, the Receiptware on the printer is intelligent. So it can understand certain text messages that come through. So it can understand checking, and it can look for a balance amount on the same line, or it can look for certain dates or certain ranges of account numbers. And based upon dates or balances or types of accounts, different messages or different logos or different prompts can be printed on the receipt from customer to customer. So again, there's lots of opportunities with the Receiptware engine that comes with our TTP printer to make a very attractive and flexible receipt printing engine. Okay, next slide, please. And here's a demonstration pictures, if you will, on replacing the receipt roll. Again, the front drawer just comes out, a lid lifts up, and again, you just really drop the roll in, and you pull the paper out a little bit to the right, and then just shut the lid, and it will load, and it will trim it off at the right length, and you're ready to go for the rest of that roll. So that's what I wanted to cover in our time together today. And again, after this presentation or at the end, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, appreciate the opportunity to meet with you folks.
Thank you, Rick, for your presentation. Lastly, I'd like to introduce everyone to Scott Willis, who is the Global Channel Marketing Director at Panini. He will be speaking with you about the new Panini multifunction system. Scott, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate the time you're spending on the call here today. As Jennifer mentioned, we'd like to cover our Vision X multifunction system. So next slide, please. So before I get into the product itself, I'd like to talk a little bit about the research that went into creating the product. Why would we even want to do something like this in the first place? Well, back in 2009, Panini initiated some very detailed research into the possibility of coming out with something we were calling a multifunction device. And so we did an exhaustive web-based survey in North America to test the viability of this concept of a multifunction device. And the concept was defined as a single hardware solution with pluggable component options that delivered the current or desired replacement functionality to existing teller equipment that was being used today. We sent out our survey to many potential respondents, including P&A, Panini North America mailing lists, Celent, Oliver Wyman lists, Source Media lists, a number of recipients of these surveys. With 141 responses, we had an even distribution across asset size and a very low inconsistency in responses, which gave us an indication that we could have high confidence in the results that we got back. After that, we conducted multiple focus groups with individual financial institutions, in-depth interviews, expanded our research into international markets, had done additional secondary product research in the branch printing area, and additional interviews. So a lot of research went into the concept before we ever developed the product. And some of the interesting results that we found, next slide please. One of the key questions we asked was what type of branch hardware peripheral equipment is being used today? And, based on other questions that are not being displayed here, we knew that the teller station was the key location where this multifunction device needed to live. We do have their responses for back counter and platform desk as well, but our key focus was the teller station. And by far and away, the most common peripherals used in the teller station were validation printers and receipt printers, or a device that supports both of those in combination. As you can see, there's other peripherals that are highly supported as well, including cash counters and currency dispensers, etc. So we wanted to find out, what is being supported today. But just because they support it today doesn't mean it's what they desire to support in the future or what they desire to support in a multifunction device. So next slide, please. So what we found when asking the question, what prioritize the modules that you would like to see in this multifunction device. And this is a list of the responses that we saw. The top choice were receipt printers, then validation printers, then check scanners, then ID card scanners that actually capture the image of a rigid ID like a driver's license, not necessarily the magnetic stripe data. Signature pads, pin pads, etc. What we've done is the items highlighted in yellow are the items that we initially started with as options to include in our multifunction device. Other devices such as signature pads and pin pads and those kind of things can also be supported from the device through open additional USB connections within the hub architecture that we use. Next slide, please. So, the net result of all the market research that we did is, what do you believe, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, the key benefits of actually implementing something like a multifunction device? And so the consistent responses and consolidated responses we received indicated that ease of use, ergonomics, streamlined operations were very important. The faster and easier the teller can process the transactions, the more efficient they are, the higher the customer satisfaction. So that was very important. Another key thing is that having a reduced footprint was also very important. And thanks to module integration versus having all these individual components, that became a critical thing that was important to them. Also, the rationalization or the optimization of the workspace they're using at the teller, which includes optimized cable management, reduced power consumptions, make the space that you have, which is limited at the teller, very usable. Another key benefit they saw was reduced capital expenditure and lower total cost of ownership versus an environment where you support multiple individual peripherals as opposed to in an all-in-one device. They also indicated a preference for a single supplier for the purposes of support, installation, asset management, upgrades, etc. It was very important to have investment protection. In other words, the possibility to buy what you needed when you need it and gradually roll out the components that are relevant to you at the right time. And also this entire situation, this entire solution, had to minimize the risks that they were faced with. So this was the result of all the research that we did. So what this resulted in was the Vision X multifunction system. So next slide, please. So this is a kind of a schematic profile view of our multifunction system. It was launched at the end of 2010, and it really is a combined device that supports multiple teller technologies in a single platform architecture. Starting with the check scanner, which you see in the middle there, which is the standard Panini VisionX check scanner or My VisionX check scanner, which is industry leading, over 500,000 devices deployed. So our tried and true product scanner is the one that's used in this multifunction system. And the scanner, of course, supports the MICR reading with all the features you'd expect, such as OCR assist, very, very high micro reading rates based on proprietary algorithms. Also supports, image analytics to be able to do OCR reading of payment stubs. Supports barcode reading engines to read barcodes from certain types of documents. And, of course, the full image capture with multiple image segments, et cetera, and many other features, that are unique to the VisionX product itself. But the core point here is that's kind of one of the core components of this multifunction system. As you move to the right a little bit on the top, the next component was the capability to support validation printing. It turns out in our research that 75% of banks are still doing validation printing at the teller, where they actually print from 1 to 4 lines of information on the back of the check for the purposes of keeping the physical paper together until it's destroyed and saving transaction information such as teller ID, branch ID, sequence numbers, date and time of transaction, microdata, that kind of thing. So we have the ability, using our AGP feature on the VisionX, to support the multi-lines of print, with very high quality, high yield, super high yield cartridges. So you don't have to replace the ink cartridge very often at all. And it does support technologies through the API, such as detecting, how much a printer cartridge has been used, so that you can see when a printer cartridge is getting low, and you can alert the operator to replace the printer cartridge. Going along clockwise, we support an optional magnetic stripe reader embedded into the top of the scanner itself. So you can do a mag stripe, read any kind of mag stripe card that supports the ISO 3-track standard, which is pretty much any credit, debit, other types of cards as well. We also, within the base unit, support an open USB port, so that if there are other peripherals you need that are not supported in here, you can connect those to this configuration as well, such as pin pads or signature pads or whatever else is appropriate. We have an optional smart card reader. We also have an option to create a base hub unit that supports full-page document scanning. 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14 full-page documents can be scanned front and back through this full-page scanner in the base unit, with an auto-alignment mechanism to make sure you get de-skewed and very straight reads, with an exit pocket that supports up to 10 documents in the exit pocket. And this base unit mechanism also supports the option for a rigid ID card scanner. So you can scan the image of a driver's license, for example, capture front and back of a driver's license or other types of rigid cards if you wanted to image those. It also supports a thermal roll receipt printer as part of the configuration, which, as was pointed out earlier, thermal printing is really the ideal printing for receipt printing these days. It's very quiet, very fast, lower cost to support, lower cost to purchase than the alternative technologies such as Impact and Inkjet when it comes to receipt printing. Our unit is very small, very compact. It is very easy to load. It's a front-loading mechanism with a clear window on the front so you can see when the roll is getting low. Also, one of the unique things about the way we've configured this is you can orient the receipt printer any way you like. You can face it to the left, you can face it forward, you can face it to the right, or you can even purchase an optional tether cable where you can move the receipt printer physically away from the docking station and the MFS unit itself to accommodate any kind of variety of different teller station configurations. It supports a full or partial cutter, automatic cutter, and so it's a very, very good unit. So all of these together make up the multifunction system. And so let's take just a quick walk through a typical transaction. So let's say you were at the teller and a customer came in for a deposit transaction. One of the first things you may want to do is to identify the customer. So if you happen to want to identify them using a debit card, they could swipe the mag card through the mag card option in the scanner, with an optional connected PIN pad connected through the optional USB port, you could type in the PIN and identify the user that way. If it turns out you wanted to use their driver's license to identify them, you can read the mag stripe on some of the driver's license that exists out there through the magnetic card reader as well. You could even image the driver's license through the rigid ID card imager, and some driver's licenses have barcodes on them now, and you can use the optional barcode reader engine to read the barcode and identify that way. So several methods to identify the customer before the transaction begins. When the checks are scanned, the checks are scanned through the Panini scanner, capturing the microdata and the images, and then at the same time, validation information up to 4 lines can be printed on the back of the item. And then when the transaction is complete, a thermal roll tape receipt can be printed out for the customer that has full graphics support capability with, bank logos, marketing messages, images of the checks that you had just captured, just like an ATM receipt, can be included. So all kinds of different options available in terms of how you want to configure this and what you want to support. Next slide, please. So this is just a view of the two primary versions of this we have. The upper right is our standard hub docking station, which is actually the docking station that it sits on holds the scanner, but also is really a USB and power hub that allows you to have a single set of cables coming into the device and have the USB and power distributed to all the modules without having to have separate cables running to every single device. You can optionally order the docking station with smart card readers and other configurations as well. This is the device that was launched at the end of 2010. And then this year, we're getting close to launching the second version of this, which is the one on the lower left, which is the docking station option that has the full-page scanner and the rigid ID scanner as part of the configuration as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of the positioning and benefits of the Panini VisionX multifunction system, I mean, it's really positioned as a branch automation product that supports the most popular hardware technology in a single compact modular solution. And so the key points in terms of what we really provide here, number one is it's a true multifunction system that supports a number of different modules, all from a common architecture and common hub. It's not just a receipt printer and a check scanner connected together. It's a true device that supports all kinds of different modules. It has optimized footprint. In fact, taking up about the same footprint as just the scanner alone, by virtue of the fact that the receipt printer fits underneath the feeder plate and the exit pocket, and then it's a little bit taller than just the scanner itself. But in terms of actual desk space that it takes up, it's virtually the same as the scanner alone. It leverages the Panini VisionX and My VisionX scanner. So if you have these scanners already deployed, you can use your existing scanners in the MFS product. You don't have to buy a new scanner to support this. Next slide, please. It leverages the best printing technologies matched to the right applications. We did a lot of research in the area of printing, and we determined that thermal receipt printing is the ideal type of receipt that you want to use for printing because it's fast, it's quiet, it's low priced. But for validation printing, you can't really use thermal printing because thermal printing requires special paper, whereas if you're doing validation printing, you're printing on existing types of paper. So then it became, is the best validation printer an impact printer or an inkjet printer? And both from a cost standpoint and a performance standpoint, inkjet, we believe, is definitely the superior technology. So we use inkjet printing for the validation printing and thermal printing for the receipt printing. Offers investment protection, allowing you to use existing scanner products from Panini or deploy the modules you need when you need them. It's very flexible on a number of fronts. You can use any of the Panini VisionX or My VisionX configurations, whether it's 50, 75, 100 documents per minute, whether they have printers or not, whether, regardless of the feeder size. So any types of the appropriate VisionX configuration can be used. You can also have flexibility around the receipt printer in terms of how you locate it, where you point the receipt printer to face, whether it's detached from the base unit or connected, and also the docking station coming in a variety of options with smart card readers or not, full-page scanners, rigid ID card scanners. And everything that we do is surrounds the reliability that we really have proven with our Vision X product, and that we're ISO 9001 certified processes, 99.7% field quality acceptance rates, and so all of these quality processes and procedures and products have been utilized within the multifunction system as well. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really quickly here, we're going to have Lou come back to show you Canon's new product, and then we'll get ready on answering some questions. Lou?
Thank you, Jennifer. Canon is releasing a new all-in-one product of their own in late June of this year, in a couple of weeks. And basically, in a nutshell, what it is they're replacing the Canon 25 document per minute scanner with a 50 document per minute scanner, and a 55 document per minute scanner with an 80 document per minute scanner, with some additional new features listed there on the slide. And they're also releasing a receipt printer to piggyback on the scanner. Details to follow soon. If you would like some more information on the Canon product as we receive the details, we'll forward those to you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Lou. If anyone has any questions, please type them into your chat box. We will answer as many questions as we can. After this webinar, we'll follow up with a PDF of the questions and answers. We are also recording this webinar, which will be hosted on our website when it's finalized. If anyone would like the link to this, please email me or your UniLink rep. Otherwise, you can find it at any time by going to our website, UniLinkInc.com. Click on the webinars link in the left-hand products column. While you're typing in your questions, I just want to say congratulations to Lisa Anderson. You are the winner of our UniLink webinar giveaway. You'll receive a Target and a Starbucks gift card. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at some questions that you guys have. And we do have our contact information up there if anybody thinks of any questions later. All right, can I get a printout of all this? Of course you can. Just email me, Jennifer at UniLinkInc.com. My email is right up on the slide there. Or go ahead and contact your UniLink rep, and we'll get that right over to you. How is the receiptware configured? Push to all tellers? I think that's for digital check.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. The receiptware, again, is a module that runs on the PC that controls the scanner and the printer. And then the logos are preloaded into the printer, right? So as operations continue, the messaging to the printer, says print the logo and print message 1 or print message 3, and it comes from memory on the printer onto the receipt paper. Those logos can be updated, and there are facilities to distribute those across the network and have them loaded into the printer as they may need to change.
All right. The next question is, what is the pricing on these products? Lou Fuchs, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, what we'll do is on an individual basis, if you could contact Jennifer or your UniLink sales rep with the vendor or vendors that you're interested in pricing and configurations on, we will work to get that information to you.
All right. Looks like that's all the questions we have right now. If you think of anything again, feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today, and you have a great remainder of the week.
Thanks, everybody.